What's up, everyone? It's the Watch and Listen podcast. This is a podcast all about watches. Me and my friend, Mr. Cameron Weiss, the CEO of the Weiss Watch Company and master watchmaker, making watches here in Los Angeles completely from scratch. He's the only one doing that, folks. Oh, man, this episode is brought to you by Crown and Caliber, our partner in crime. Well, the opposite of crime, in totally legitimate secondhand luxury watch sales. Crown and Caliber is the best place to buy a secondhand watch online. It's safe. You know, buying secondhand online can be very shady. It's whether it's eBay and the thing is fake, it's got a bunk movement, it's got a replaced dial. You never know what you're going to get unless you buy from Crown and Caliber. When you go to crownandcaliber.com, the watches you see photographed are the actual watches that you're going to buy. It's not like a stock photo. They have a staff of technicians, of watch experts that make sure that what you get when you buy is exactly what you're expecting, works exactly as advertised, looks exactly as advertised, and that you as a customer are happy. They come with a limited mechanical warranty, so if the watch shows up and it doesn't work properly, they will handle it for you. It's very nice. They will also buy your watch. If you've got a watch sitting in the closet, maybe you don't wear it very much, maybe you want to trade up or trade out of it, Crown and Caliber's got you. They will buy or trade for anything in their stock. The process is very easy. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. They'll give you an offer within 24 hours, and you could be on your way to a new watch very, very quickly. No sitting on eBay with this thing for like 6 months or dealing with, lowball and shystas. Go to crownandcaliber.com. Use code WL150, that's WL150, and we'll give you $150 off your first watch purchase at Crown and Caliber, courtesy of your friends at the Watch and Listen podcast. It's our treat, folks. We are also brought to you by Beeline Coffee. I love Beeline Coffee. I drink it every single day. I tell everybody about it. You know why? My name is on the bag. We worked with Beeline Coffee to create the roasted tire. Version 1 had my Mustang on it. Version 2 we've been selling for like 8 months with the Safari 911 on it. Version 3 is now in the Beeline Coffee store. It has my Lamborghini Countach on the bag. That's how you can tell it's version 3. The beans are just delicious. They're roasted with love. You can buy 1 pound, you can buy 10 pounds, or you can get a subscription plan that'll send coffee to your door all year. This is, car-themed coffee is one of those things that could be really corny and terrible, except the coffee itself happens to be spectacular, and that makes it all wonderful. Use code CHRONO, CHRONO, code CHRONO to get 15% off anything at BeelineCoffee.com. Okay, folks, on this episode of Watch and Listen, this is a dude we've been trying to get in studio for a minute. His name's Matt Hranek. He's a really good guy. He's a travel writer. He writes about luxury goods. He's had a book out for about a year and change now called A Man and His Watch. It's a really nice book. It's like a coffee table style book. It's got great stories. It's got beautiful photography. And he's in studio talking about that, his passion for watches, and the upcoming book he's working on now, A Man and His Car, which I am also very excited about. It's a good talk. It's great to have this dude in studio. He's the man, Matt Hranek, on the Watch and Listen podcast. Welcome, folks. It's a beautiful in-between a rainer session.
Yeah.
This is, when it rains in L.A., boy, is it a bitch to get everywhere. And that's why I'm sorry to Matt Hranek for having to drive all the way from, Studio City to get over here?
Yeah, but even if it wasn't raining, it would still be
terrible. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Matt Hranek,
Pleasure.
the author of A Man and His Watch, which is a collection of what it sounds like, stories of recognizable folks and their watches.
Mortals and immortals.
Which is which?
I don't know. I think the better stories are more immortal.
Yeah.
I think you can go the celebrity route and the priceless route. It never really was about that. It was always about what's the best storytelling. It didn't make a difference. It was a Casio F7 or a IWC Big Pilot.
Yeah. Well, okay. To back it up for a minute, what inspires your background is in like photography, right? Sort of
I've been
luxury lifestyle stuff.
Well, I mean, that was sort of a new incarnation, but I started out as a photographer, but I came to New York as a photographer, and then somewhere in between I went and did some television and then fell into this weird role at Condé Nast Traveler where my wife was the creative director. Nepotism is great.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Pilar was the editor-in-chief, and they didn't have anyone to cover any of the luxury good market, watches, hospitality, and I was sort of waiting for this TV show in Esquire if it was going to get picked up or not. And
what year was this we talking about here?
So this was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
That was alternate route.
Right, okay. And Esquire was, at that time, a healthy network.
Oh, my God. It was the great hope.
I had a show on Esquire for 8 seconds, then they killed the whole network.
Well, I mean, first of all, we could talk like 3 hours about that, but the problem was the idea was great. The problem was no one could find it.
Yeah.
And even my mom, who was like a super fan of me, couldn't find the damn show. And guess what? Guys who it was geared to, they don't have Time Warner Cable. Like everything's on a tablet or a phone. Yeah. It just was, I thought the ideas were great. It was just archaic. So when I was sitting around waiting to be picked up, they said, why don't you first and foremost start covering the watch market, which was a big part of the business, the magazine. So I started going to SIHH and going to Basel and like getting in thick with all these guys. And I think you and I talked about this briefly. Like I'm not technically really, I don't have a lot of technical aptitude, but I aesthetically like stuff.
Stories and aesthetics. And speaking of which, you can check out his aesthetics at WM Brown Project on Instagram. What is that?
Okay, William Brown was basically this blog that I started, the William Brown Project, around 2008. And it started out as this kind of diary. And my farm upstate, in upstate New York, was called the William Brown Farm.
Oh, okay.
So
did you buy it that way?
Yeah, it was part of a 500-acre dairy farm
okay.
on William Brown Road. And I was like, what should we call this thing? And since a lot of that stuff was kind of, at least in the early days, happening up there, we just called it the William Brown Project. And it also diverted itself from me as an entity of like Matt Hranek photography. Mm-hmm. So if you dug deep enough, it was me, but I liked that it was this kind of almost other character, you know?
Yeah.
And then
I like your Instagram. It's full of booze and old cars and watches and food and finely dressed people.
You know, you frame yourself a very specific way, I guess, on Instagram.
Yeah.
You don't see the ugly side. I mean,
well, it's a very editorialized version of life, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's stuff that I really like talking about, and I mean, it's pretty honest and straightforward and legit, but it is very site specific. My mother thinks I'm a full-blown alcoholic.
So, all right. So this is your Instagram and your farm, WM Brown Project. We like it. And so you're covering watches for Esquire.
For Condé Nast Traveler.
Oh, sorry, Condé Nast Traveler.
The TV show was on Esquire.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I just started meeting all these kind of great characters, great brand stories, guys who loved watches. I started kind of just talking about what people had on their wrists. Then I was able to get into archives at, let's say, Cartier and Zenith. I went on a tour of, you put me on a factory tour, like I fall in love immediately, right?
Who doesn't love a factory tour?
I love a factory
tour. Great.
So, Artisan approached me about doing a book about in the men's space, and I said, okay, I want to do a watch book. And they said, nope, we already turned that down. And they're like, let's get the editor in that came in with this. So this woman, Shoshana, came in, who was a great champion of watches. And she was like, I was like, no, I don't want to do a book about watches. I want to do a storybook that just happens to be about watches. And they were like, huh, okay. No one pitched that idea. So give me an example. And I started selfishly with my own story, which was a watch left by my father when he passed away, and what that connection means to me. Well, I had them at that. And I said, I'm not alone out there.
Yeah.
And there's cool archive stories, and there's great brand stories. And then we just started building this book. And it took about a year. And it kind of really started for me. I knew it was in the right direction when we got that Paul Newman Daytona that was on the wrist of his daughter, Clea, who I knew. because I had volunteered some time with the charity.
Uh-huh.
And I said, we really need that watch for the book. And she was like, I don't really feel really good about that. Like, she's very low key. And I kind of explained the situation. It was like kind of empowering the history of her father more than like the fact that she had this watch. And she bought that, and we went and photographed it. And when she took that off her wrist, on the back, it had that inscription, "Drive slowly."
Drive carefully, me.
No.
No, it was the other one.
So the original exotic dial, which
Right.
according to her, like no one knew where that watch was.
Yeah, didn't he give it? He gave it to his daughter's boyfriend.
That's right.
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
was the first one. So the watch that's on the cover of this book was the watch that Joanne replaced the exotic dial with that he gave away.
Okay.
And in the scripted font, she wrote, "Drive slowly." And I just like got chills when I saw it. So I put the watch on and I was like, shit, this guy's DNA is like still in the watch. Like it was really powerful.
Yeah.
So we photographed that, and then we just kind of picked up the momentum of the book, and then it just was a floodgate of really great stories to the point where my publisher towards the end was like, no more watches.
Yeah. You could go on forever.
Go on forever. So there's the original. That was the one that was
the
given
Drive
away.
Carefully one.
Drive Carefully, me. And then the one that's on the back of mine is
$17 million.
Drive
Easy.
Slowly.
This is the other one. The less exotic dial.
Yeah, that's the big... No.
This one.
That one.
Sorry,
Yeah.
this one.
That one. And
Boy, what is going on with this thing? It's not clicking fast enough. Sorry.
and
folks.
that's a Stephen Lewis photograph right there. And that has Drive Slowly, Joanne on the back of it.
I like the black dial better.
I love that watch. I mean, again, you talk about like collectors versus just owners. Like I'm an owner. And I guess years ago when I was really getting into this, like nobody wanted these, like they were really kind of reasonably priced. But I just that was never my mentality to just kind of buy and hoard stuff. Like it was like one thing and it was that thing. And I think I was a Submariner guy. I mean, that's what I kind of fell in love with.
That's what you're wearing right now.
Yeah, so this is a 5513, and what I love about this watch is, first of all, I bought it on eBay when
Back when you could do that.
when the seller was skeptical of the buyer,
Yeah. Can we see it? Let's put it on the
Yeah.
camera.
and it has been going tropical since I've owned it.
Nice.
So it's slowly going brown.
Is this your everyday watch?
This is, I would call this one of the everydays.
How many watches are you working with right now?
I probably have like a dozen or so.
That's about a good. That's a nice round number.
Yeah,
They fit in one box.
One box.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time where I was just like obsessed, like collecting Seiko chronographs, and I never wore them. And I was like, what the hell am I doing with all this stuff? So I just started I love Rolex sports models in general, just because that's what my dad liked. You wear the Submariner, you're a Navy diver. You wear the, Daytona, you're a race car driver. Like I love tool watches.
Yeah. I mean the Submariner is like it's great because you can wear it and blend into the world of kind of everyone's got one until someone looks at it and goes, "Oh, that's an old one. Oh, that one's a special one. Okay, what makes that one different?" But you can also be pretty DL about it. It's not like wearing like a gold, Breitling or something like that.
No.
Yeah.
I think what I always loved about it was its subtlety and simplicity of design. The fact that it really was designed with purpose. Like these were tool watches, and they have evolved into something much more complex that could be, style and dress and how you present yourself to the world kind of thing. But at first, like these were for divers. Done.
Yeah. Completely sport oriented. You even look at the ads. I have ads of Rolex Submariners that actually had surfers in the ads.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And
It was like buy this and wear it while surfing.
Yeah, marketed
Because what was
for
this thing?
surfers.
What was this thing new? Like $300?
I think $350, $400 new.
Yeah.
This one I think is around. It's hard to judge by the serial number, about like late 60s.
So
And-
what was?
But not for nothing.
Late 60s, I think it probably would have been like $200 to $300.
But not for nothing. $300
Yeah.
in the late 60s. What?
that
So that's
was a lot of money.
That's
yeah.
the equivalent to $2,000 today.
Right. Like they're not giving them away.
Yeah.
Like
But that could have been a month's worth of salary or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
At
I'm
that
sure
point.
when my dad was a huge, like he loved just well-crafted things. And I remember we were out one time and my dad used to shoot competitive skeet.
Uh-huh.
And they were always like Belgian made Brownings, like it was like real like crafted stuff. And there was this one
You could do a man in his shotgun.
you could do a man in his gun.
Yeah.
Hands down. It's
not
very
really
politically charged.
Yeah.
But there is that connection.
There would be a way to do it without it being, if they were like proper like art guns and sport. If it was a man in his fucking M16,
no.
If it was someone who has a Holland and Holland from their great grandfather, or
like Napoleon's dueling
Yeah,
pistols,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Elvis's. Elvis had a turquoise handled 45, like that.
What did he shoot the hole in the Pantera with?
That was I think a 38.
I think it was a smaller gun.
Yeah,
right?
38.
Yeah.
But anyway,
There would be a tactful way to do it, but it'd be a tough sell.
It's a tough
with the
sell
publisher.
for my publisher for sure.
The NRA press would fucking love it.
I bet it would do really well, honestly. But I remember, like, so there was all those kind of group of guys that were like Belgian-made shotguns, beautiful cars, and watches. And I remember my dad, there was this one guy who, I remember he pulled up in this beautiful Mercedes coupe. His gorgeous guns came out. He was dressed in nines. My dad was like, you see that what he has on his wrist? Like, that's a Rolex. And I remember, like, yesterday it was a two-tone date just, like, which was so the period. Like, it was like late 70s, early 80s. And he was like, when my business takes off, like, I'm rewarding myself with that. And I remember that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
One day I came home and there was that watch on his wrist. And I was like, wow. He goes, yeah, the business has done well, And that to me was such a kind of symbol of kind of success, the trajectory of one's adult life and what that means. And then when he passed away, and he passed away quite young, like, I think I tell the story in the book clearly, which is like, I just took the watch. I knew it was mine. Like, it wasn't.
Do you have siblings?
I have a brother.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just felt like I didn't wait for somebody to give me that. Like, that was and you know what it really was about? It was not about the value of the watch in terms of its monetary. It was the emotional connection with that man. Yeah. Like, when I put that watch on, I'm immediately connected.
Yeah.
And that's what it was about.
Yeah.
And this book became an extension of that storytelling.
Yeah. My dad got his first like really great job he's been successful his whole life, but his first like real heavy hitter job in 1990, running Macy's. He was the CEO of Macy's in 1990 at he was born in 53, so he was 37, which is how old I am. Imagine me fucking running Macy's. Forget it. But he bought himself a Submariner, brand new at the time, black, just kind of like yours, but I think it was 1640, something like that.
Whatever that.
Whatever the new one was then, no date, and he still wears it. He wears it every day for 30 years now. He's been wearing the fucking thing, and because he like doesn't go outside or he always wears long sleeves, it's like it looks like he bought it yesterday.
It doesn't have a ding,
a ding, not a scratch, not a fade, nothing. It's like mint. But like, I just identify, he had this one moment of up a level and bought this thing, and then he gave me one when I moved to California. He gave me a Submariner as like a going away, good luck, start your career present. But it was really important to me once I got to a certain point, because I've been wearing this watch my dad gave me, which was lovely, but like, I want to buy one. Like, I need to show whatever that like I made it myself, and so it was a big deal when I went out and bought one too.
For the record, I bought my brother a Rolex when he graduated Syracuse because I felt so guilty.
Because you felt so guilty about taking it? Oh,
I
nice
bought him a date just.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. So, Nathan, if you're listening to this, that was payback.
Yeah. The Submariner is a milestone. For some reason, it's a good milestone watch.
I have a couple versions of that Submariner, and then I love the GMT. And, I was buying these watches when I had a little bit of extra cash, and they were really affordable. Now I think it's just madness what's happened to this, this idea of collecting watches or even just buying vintage watches. Like, I think I paid $1,600 for that. And that for me was a lot of money. Like, that was my that was the first real watch that I bought. I bought it in 96 or so. And I just was like, oh, I remember asking my wife, I was just married. I was like, is this cool? Like, can I spend the money on this?
Yeah.
And I should have bought 10.
And now it's now it's a joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
But as a testament to like collecting or owning stuff, like I just knew I was going to wear one. I didn't need 10.
Yeah.
It wasn't a part of my mentality to like do that.
But you know what? They don't take up a lot of space.
That's true.
They don't require a lot from you in return.
No oil changes.
Yeah, I mean, this thing it's like a $500 service every 10 years, maybe. And
I've owned.
Speaking of which, I have to vent about the servicing of this when we get around to it.
The IWC.
Yeah. I just got it back from service this morning, and I love this watch. I like simple ones, kind of like the Rolexes, and I have an Explorer that I wear mostly every day. But like, I love a complicated, crazy math machine too. And at IWC, they told me it was going to be a certain amount to service it, and then when I showed up to actually get it serviced, it turns out it was double that.
With no warning.
With no warning, and it's fine. And then they called me to say, as part of the service, they replaced the dial and the hands, which look exactly the same as they did before. I have no idea what the difference is between the replaced one, the old and the new. It looked exactly the same. I don't get it. And
but that was a big no-no when Rolex would drop off to service and they would take all those beautiful dials.
Well, fortunately, it wasn't aged. I mean, this thing is 10 years old, not 30 years old, so it didn't matter. But it just, and there was, when I went to go pick this thing up this morning, first off, the store opened 10 minutes late. If you're a watch store, what is your excuse for not opening on time? Yeah. And then I was offered water maybe 6 times before they just got my stupid fucking watch out of the back and gave
no
it to
coffee.
Me. I was offered coffee and water, and then coffee and water, and then more water, and then sparkling water, and then it was like it's for some reason IWC must not be doing well because it is the pushiest store I have ever been in.
What's the Weiss policy and stuff like that on the service return? Is water offered at the
always?
You offer
always
water and coffee, Beeline
sparkling
Coffee.
Water. Beeline Coffee, yeah.
Oh, we should drop that, by the way. There's a new... I need to refresh. There is a brand new... My new roast. I have my own roast, Matt. The Roasted Tire from Beeline Coffee. 3.0 is out right now. 1.0 had my old Mustang on it. 2.0 had my 911. Roasted Tire 3.0 is from Honduras. It's a medium light roast, medium bodied, as I like my coffee. It's got a bunch of caffeine in it. Makes you feel real good. And it's available at Beeline Coffee right now.
Is this your coffee?
Yeah, straight up.
Dude, I got to get some of that.
I will hook you up.
Do you distribute on the East Coast or?
We sell it online.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome.
I don't make it. Beeline Coffee makes it. They're in Florida. But I work with them to develop the roast. Yeah, Cameron's got a roast as well.
Awesome.
Weiss Watch Company roast.
Yeah, we did a Rover edition.
Maybe we should do a man and his beans.
Deal.
We'll hook it up. We'll hook it up. Yeah, no, the Roasted Tire 3.0 is out now.
Nice.
Yeah, Cameron serves it up, though, when you go visit his factory. He treats you like family down there.
Yeah, we're the only place you can go in for a service and actually see the whole factory.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you don't service you don't send shit out.
Yeah.
They sent my watch out.
I think the whole service with the watch brand is always tricky.
Yeah.
It always takes too long and it's too expensive. And
I have a local guy I love here in LA. Shout out to Marina Bay Watch Company, and all my normal shit they do
goes there.
But this one it's so complicated. I just didn't want to fuck with it.
Yeah, that's a scary one to give to just anybody.
That's a scary one. I didn't want to give it to just anybody. Do you have are you into the complicated stuff as well, or is it pretty much the steel sport watches for you?
I admire the complications, but I am really I can't even read those dials. I mean, even one time
you got to train your eye where to look.
So those guys, I really like those guys at Crown and Caliber down in Atlanta. And they were like, hey, can we send you a watch like you want to wear or do you thought about? And I said, yeah, a modern Daytona, I really want to see what that's like. So they sent me up and I wore it for a couple weeks. It was stainless steel white dial. I could not tell the time.
You couldn't tell time, right?
I couldn't tell the time.
Says about those, huh?
We have discussed this many times in this show.
And I said, listen, I love you guys.
You can't tell time for nothing on a modern Daytona.
And the whole reason why I wear a watch is I do tell time on it. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah.
And
at a basic level.
I couldn't, and they were like, hey, what do you feel about that? I was like, that was so much fun to wear. you could have it back.
Yeah. They sent me one to wear, and I wore it for about 2 weeks, and I was like, "This is dumb. I can't tell time on this thing at all."
No.
So I got this instead, which is HoDinky's Octavia reissue,
that is so good.
which you actually can tell time
Yeah.
on. So I'm a huge fan of this. Oh my god!
Is
why
that
can
in
I not-
40 millimeter? That
It's a 42.
see, that looks normal on your wrist.
Yeah, no, I
That-
have a big like fat gorilla wrist, so it looks good. And this beads of rice bracelet rules.
awesome. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of this one. This is a Daytona-ish chronograph that you can actually tell the time on.
Too big for me.
Yeah, probably. But you could wear the vintage one though, which I could never get away with.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love the brands that are beginning to nod to their heritage unapologetically, particularly when you have collaborations, let's say, with HoDinky or even the Rake magazine now, where
What's that one?
So that's a Bell and Ross that they designed with
The Rake?
for the Rake.
What's that? I don't know.
Rake
I've never
is
heard of the Rake.
So
is that this?
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is dope. Hang on, let me find a good picture.
So
of
the
this.
Rake is a magazine published by a good friend of mine named Waco, and he started off with Revolution magazine, and
These are really nice
and
looking,
the
man.
Rake is the kind of men's style magazine, pretty high style, that's published out of London.
Is this one of these like quarterly expensive magazines?
He's monthly.
Oh, it's monthly. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been having discussions. I write for Road and Track,
Mm-hmm.
and me and some of my car magazine folks have been having discussions about what to do with the print magazine business and how to, where can it go? Because like guys like me, like, are not satisfied with standard magazines anymore. Like that Porsche 000 magazine.
Yeah.
Like I want that, but about everything, not just Porsches. Have you seen The Road Rat out of England yet?
No.
The Road Rat is really good. It's basically that. Like I want like a paperback coffee table book 4 times a year for $25. That's what I'm looking
Can I make an announcement on this show?
for. Yes.
Okay. I am launching a men's magazine
No shit.
quarterly that hopefully fills all the gaps that you just talked about.
Really? You need a
So
car writer?
it's at the printer. Yes.
Yeah. Daddy needs a job.
It's but basically it's one of those it's right now we published the first issue that's a little bit behind. The idea was about seasons, right? And how kind of men look at seasonal dressing, eating, driving, drinking, whatever that is. And for me, growing up in the Northeast, it was where we have 4 seasons, unlike you guys.
Yeah.
It was very site specific on what that was. And I love magazine. I love print. Like you don't have to charge it. You don't have to plug it in. It could take a cocktail
it's
spill
forever.
at the pool. But I wanted to create something that wasn't just something you kind of digest and put on the recycler. I wanted something that was tangible, aspirational, you could hold on to. So we basically brought the blog and the Instagram to life with William Brown Magazine.
Oh, it's cool.
So that'll be there's a sneak peek at the Instagram of the cover we could check out.
Oops. Let's see. Can I find it?
So it's not out yet. It just dropped. It's printing as we speak.
So where can I find it? On your Instagram?
So there's a sneak peek of the cover
here it is.
right there. So the cover is this, and also
It looks like a Ralph Lauren ad.
Well,
I think Bruce Weber has shot for Ralph Lauren in this field before.
well, the crazy thing about this, and this was the philosophy, because I don't want to see clothes dressed by stylists on models. I want stories on real guys. And this is a friend of mine. This guy actually exists naturally in the real world as
this person who looks like
a movie
like he's
star.
out of a Sherlock Holmes remake, right?
And he looks like an Italian movie star.
Yeah.
So he's a friend of
somewhere
mine.
between a Francois Sever and
Yeah.
a Sherlock Holmes.
Totally.
And a guy who's trying to hunt with peregrine falcons.
So this is in the countryside of Abruzzo, and Gerardo grew up in the south of Italy, south of Naples, and was a lawyer, trained lawyer, and was like really just in love with the sartorial arts, like in love with handmade.
Yeah.
And in Naples you could still show up in a little workshop, and there's 4 old ladies like sewing buttonholes by hand and stuff. So he was like, what I really love is this, and I really want to keep all this stuff alive. So he and his wife started a line in Rome. She was designing women's coats, and he was doing men's suits and suiting. And this couple is like the most fun human beings on earth. And she's from Abruzzo, which looks like Wyoming. which is when you get up there. So we drove his Series 3 Land Rover up there with his Bracco
Of course he has a
Italiano.
Land Rover too.
Yeah. And
This
we did
guy
the
is
story.
just coming to fuck your wife. Like, I mean, honestly, this dude is gonna fuck your wife. Your wife is not safe around this guy.
Oh, man.
He's-
Yeah, that should have been the title of that issue.
He's too cool for everybody.
But but the magazine is filled with booze, food, cars, watches,
Nice.
new and old. Listen, it's filled with the stuff that I love, and it's not going to be for everybody. But I know I'm not the only guy out there that likes this stuff.
No.
So
What you want is a magazine like that, but that like allows kind of stories to breathe, that isn't cluttered with ads, that isn't clearly PR. Like a lot of like quote luxury magazines are just like printed press releases for products that you. I mean, I just picked up a Rob report and I was doing some research. I bought every car magazine I could find at the airport, and I read all of them in order to decide what I wanted out of a magazine. Rob Report is a disaster.
Yeah.
And there was literally a private jet buyer's guide.
Right.
Rob
Who
Report.
lives like that?
Who needs a buyer's guide for private jets? Who's like, I want a private jet, but I can't figure out. I really need to pick up this magazine at the airport.
Well, I also feel that
By
I
the
don't
way, who's
need.
buying magazines at the airport and they need a private jet buyer's guide? There's
That
a
doesn't work out.
disconnect there.
I also don't. I don't need long form storytelling. Like, I want a concise, smart story. I want a list. I want resources. I don't need to be caught up in long form storytelling. And that was another approach to this was, keep it short and sweet and to the point, and keep it evergreen. Like, there's still information that you could use or tear out moving forward once this thing hits the newsstand.
That's cool. Is it hard to make a magazine?
Well, when you have a wife that was the former creative director,
Oh, yeah.
she really dialed it in. I have to say, like, we were a team of 3 that put this together. It was lucky for me that I had an inventory of imagery and I was a photographer, so if I needed something shot, I did it.
Yeah.
But to have like an in-house design director, award-winning design director, that was pretty special. And then working with one of her colleagues named Parker, who kind of built it all. It was just an incredible. It was fun.
Are the actual, like, just out of curiosity, the audience probably doesn't give a shit about this, but is the actual nuts and bolts of making a magazine hard? Like,
Listen,
do you literally just, like, you've got here a stack of papers that have pictures and words on them, and you walk into a printer and go, here's my magazine, make me 5,000 of these.
pretty much.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think the computer facilitates that really quickly in terms of the mechanics of making something.
Yeah.
But here is the difference. Content is key, right?
Of course.
That's the most difficult thing. Cohesive, smart, interested, and interesting content. That's why magazines are disappearing, because people forgot or don't care about what that quality was anymore. And I think it's become really disposable stuff, or people feel like, oh, we could just Google it and get the idea. Well, a lot of stuff you can't Google. You need a human kind of building what that is all about.
I miss the actual physical holding of the paper.
Me too.
I mean, I engage so much better with a book or a well-crafted magazine that feels like someone gave a shit about how it was printed than I do about scrolling through. I mean, even if it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning article I'm reading on my fucking phone, I can't engage with it the same way I can by reading a book and turning pages, or reading a magazine or a good quality magazine.
Well, we're using a printer here in the States, and these are old school guys, right? And the craft, like, we forgot about, like, ink to paper still is a craft.
Yeah.
It's not a digital printout. It's ink to paper. And I love working with those guys because it reminds me of, like, when I was a color printer. It reminds me of my dad, who was a sign painter. Like, all that kind of stuff. We got to keep that alive.
Who was in here talking about the Heidelberg printers?
That was
Was it Jacobson?
yeah.
I think it was.
No. Wolf.
Oh, Simon
Right?
Wolf. Yeah,
'Cause
Simon
they
Wolf with the
still have some of
Heidelberg
the old
printers.
print-
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. You know Simon Wolf, Wolf Watchwinders?
Yeah.
He was a good dude.
I think that's what, isn't that part of the reason why we love watches, like this mechanical thing that is
100%.
you know, and why we love fossil fuel burning cars is, like, there's all that relationship. And I think I I don't know. I want to try to keep as much as that tactile and still alive. And I think with all this digital, there is a slight. People are looking back at print now. Even certain generations are looking and being like, well, where is that tangible thing? You know, there's
the
too
record
much
player
noise.
led the way.
That's right.
The return of vinyl has
That's
led
right.
the way. That's why I think if people, if they're printing more records now than they were 10 years ago,
Yeah.
why are they not going to start printing more magazines than they were 10 years ago?
Well, I think, like I said,
Or just position it, like records are positioned now as a luxury item, not as,
Right.
you know, as something that's just what the way is, right? So why wouldn't a magazine move upscale
Right.
and be positioned as a luxury item?
you have to give it value, and that value has to be material and it has to be content.
Yeah.
Without that content, I mean, it has to be more money so you can pay the writers properly,
Yeah.
so you can pay the photographers
And have
properly.
fewer ads.
Yeah.
Well, see, I want actually, like, right now the idea is to have no ads in this right now. Well, we had
Really?
no ads. We had no ads right now because,
Whoa.
because I
What happened there?
I just got so much shorter. Because we basically fund this ourselves because I was like, listen, I've been thinking about this idea too long to not have it be produced. But I think the next wave would be how you, for me, this magazine becomes a catalyst for like selling the experience, right?
Right.
Like, how do you make this thing come alive next, right? Which really is the interface of, and why can't it just exist in print and then on Instagram? Like, Instagram is such a magical tool. Like,
There's these guys that just started an entire car review site on Instagram. I think it's called Drive Nation or something, but it's literally like, you know, the Instagram like slideshows you can do.
yeah.
Like it's like 10 slide shows car reviews. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna make any money because they have real writers doing it. I don't.
Right.
And I don't. But okay, sure.
And I'd like to thank everybody who gave me everything for free on this first issue.
I'll give you something for 3 points. I want 3 points on the back end.
Exactly.
So with a man and his watch, you know, there are a few celebrities in there. There's a few watch industry types. Our friend Adam Craniotis is in there. What are, if you can, one or two of the good stories that you couldn't secure for the book or that you couldn't get in the book?
Okay, one that got away that first of all, I designed the whole idea of this book, production, the thought process behind it was not ever allowing the word no to exist. Like, I didn't want anyone to be like, no, we don't have enough time. No, we can't get you this watch. No, you can't take a picture of me, that kind of stuff. So it was engineered in a very smart way. But of course, a couple fell through the cracks that kill me. I had the JFK inaugural watch.
Yeah.
And I really wanted the Martin Luther King Timex.
Ooh,
which is so Martin Luther King wore a Timex for most of his career. That's actually in the museum vitrine in the airport. There it is.
Is it this?
Yeah.
It's a very simple watch. Hang on.
Very simple watch.
Okay.
And there was an amazing quote from his wife about how Martin wore that watch through most of the most serious negotiations during civil rights. That was the watch that he kept time on, that he wore intimately through that whole entire process. And I wanted that watch so badly as a great kind of bookmark to the JFK watch. And the Martin Luther King Jr., the museum, what am I looking for? The word I'm looking for? The whole association that handles his archive, they were incredibly generous. And they were like, it was yes all the way down the road. And then I got to the lawyers and they were like, no, without any explanation.
What do they think would happen? They think he would steal it or damage it?
I think
or?
a part of it was they thought that they were going to be able to monetize it down the road. They didn't want somebody else to have it. They just said no. They said no, and I could not get a deeper explanation, and it just killed me.
That's frustrating.
The other one that killed me was I wanted a 9/11 watch, and there were two significant stories about watches in the whole 9/11 disaster, and one of them was the Beamer Thunderbird that he was on the flight. He was the Let's Roll guy.
What's that? I don't know.
He Beamer was he has a phone recording with his wife, and it's like he's telling her what's going on, and he's like, let's roll, and then the phone drops, and supposedly that's when they all attacked the terrorists, and then the plane went down in Pennsylvania.
Is that
And
this?
that's the watch.
This one here?
Yeah, it's a Rolex two-tone Thunderbird. And
trying to
the Beamer
get the-
family was incredibly generous. They were so helpful, but the museum was not, for the record.
Wait, that's not it. I'm trying to get this image. Well, I'll just get the Google image. I apologize that it's not. Come on. What's going on with you, mouse? Killing me right now,
It's
Smalls.
interesting. The watch
You're killing me,
stopped
Smalls.
around exactly when the plane went down.
Oof.
It's a very powerful object when you're
Yeah.
in.
Where is
in
it now?
It's at the 9/11 Museum downtown in New York.
And this did not happen?
They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't at the museum at the end would not give me access, which was really tricky. And everyone wanted they wanted to pay off, and it was just tricky. It was tricky, and it went down a really ugly spiral because I aggressively kept pushing.
Yeah.
And I got emotional about it, and I should have just been professional, but I got emotional because it's a very emotional watch, and it's a powerful thing to be around.
Yeah.
And the Beamer family, like I said, they were incredibly generous and kind. It was the museum at the end. It's just like this layer of bureaucracy.
Yeah, no, bureaucracy sucks. Bureaucracy always sucks.
Sucks.
Yeah.
I'd much rather just deal with people one-to-one. And, if you got to hand the building inspector a bottle of bourbon to push things through.
Grease the wheels a little bit.
Yeah, I love that style.
Yeah. That's very New York. What's one of your favorite stories that did make it into the book?
Okay, I love the Dimitri story, the Bill Murray watch. So
I read the book like months ago.
okay,
Remind me.
so Dimitri is this kind of keeper of the gate, maitre d' character who's at the Sunset Tower Hotel here in LA.
Oh yes, I remember this now.
And he walked in, and Bill Murray is a big fan of the hotel, and the Tower restaurant, Tower Bar, if you've ever been in there, is you can't even see in there. Yeah, there's Dimitri. It's so dark in there, and Bill Murray comes in, says to Dimitri, I think Dimitri was wearing like a Baume & Mercier, like white dialed, simple watch. And Bill Murray says, "What time is it, Dimitri?" And Dimitri is like, I don't know, Bill. I can't see the watch." And Bill Murray takes off his Timex Indiglo. He's like, "Give me that piece of crap." Takes the Baume & Mercier, drops it in his pocket, gives Dimitri the Timex Indiglo, and he goes, "What time is it?" And he clicks it. He goes, 8:29. And he's like, "That's your watch." So Dimitri, of course, cherishes that watch and that story. And then sometimes he said when Bill Murray stays at the hotel, excuse me, he'll call down. Say, "What time is it?" And he tells him the time.
Every Bill Murray story is like unbelievable. He has the most
good.
ridiculous life. He knows how to have fun. That guy.
I guess he generates good storytelling.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned it. I have a Baume & Mercier. It tells shit time too. Honestly, it does. It's fast and then it's slow. It's a terrible movement in that thing. It doesn't.
I think they're good looking. I think they're good looking watches, and I think they're good for the price. I can understand why you can't tell the time on that thing in a dark restaurant. But I don't know
If it was
what
a
else.
Daytona,
could work.
you couldn't either.
No,
You could on a new Weiss watch with your Loom.
Yeah, that's right.
You sell a few of them things.
Yeah.
You see his new watch. Cameron's. Are you wearing it? Look at that.
Oh,
this
man.
is this is it.
That's
We
beautiful.
have it from last one.
You
It's
could
the
read that.
It's the
You probably
Land
recognize
Rover.
That
the
color
dial.
looks very familiar.
It's the Land Rover gauge cluster watch with Loom.
I love that font.
Isn't that a cool font?
It's just amazing.
It's weird. If you didn't know it was from a Land Rover, you'd think it was from a saloon in the 1860s.
But
In
that's what I
Silver
think
City, Nevada, or something.
Those gauges on the Land Rover, those font choices are just amazing.
They're
Yeah.
wonky, right?
Yeah.
They're real weird.
But they're memorable. I mean, I've never seen any font like that anywhere else.
No, I haven't either.
We recreated the font from scratch.
That is beautiful. Love that.
Did you? That one's limited to how many? 21.
Yeah, 21 of them.
You sold a few though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then
Make
I
that money.
have number one.
Of course you do. Why wouldn't you have number one?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the next thing?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So next in the series is A Man in His Car,
Yeah.
which is
Look at this. You got our buddy-
was in very easy transition.
Our buddy Magnus. I like the Hasselblad too.
That Hasselblad I've been shooting the book with is just unbelievable. It's just, first of all, it's so small. The whole thing for the car book as well is like, how compact, how nimble, how quick can we be?
Yeah.
Again, to limit the no factor.
Right. I mean,
And-
we need to do this. If we can do it right now.
Yeah, right now,
Yeah.
how long is it going to take? 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally, I can get the backdrops up in 20 minutes. And using really high quality optics and capture equipment that's not big, it's not bulky. It's basically a glorified snapshot camera.
Does that Hasselblad have a medium format size sensor on it?
Yes.
That's badass.
And the lenses are true to medium format, so you get really nice compression if you want to
rad.
geek out.
Yeah.
You know,
I was a photo major, so I'll go cameras with you all day.
right? So what I missed in the digital space was you had all these kind of fine quality in terms of capture, digital capture, but you still had 35 millimeter style lenses, which didn't mimic large format without a lot of bulk and complication. Hasselblad has basically created this kind of point and shoot medium format camera with the correct compression with the lenses. This is a 45 millimeter lens. I mean, it makes cars just look beautiful.
I bet it's amazing. I don't even want to know what that camera costs.
I think Hasselblad has been very generous to loan me this camera for the project.
Camera's
But I
not
think
bad.
it's
It's the
around-
lenses that'll get you on these.
It's the
lenses.
lens.
I
Yeah.
bet the camera's expensive.
I think they're around 12 grand.
Yeah.
X1D, is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Let's see. What is B&H at?
10.
Oh, 8 to 10.
Right, not bad for a.
That's just
Hasselblad.
for the body, I think, right?
Yeah, no lenses at that.
B&H wants, for a whole kit. B&H wants 20 for a kit.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. The lenses are expensive. Medium format
the-
lenses are really
The
expensive.
glasses, yeah.
Yeah.
Leica
That's
does
rad,
it.
though.
Leica's been doing a beautiful job with small compact digital with very, very, very good optics. And,
Yeah.
the Leica CL, I think, is just fantastic camera. Again, I've always been about how do we keep things small, compact, nimble, travelable, because we're on the road with all this stuff. So I like to limit all the bells and whistles with this stuff.
How do you avoid the trap of chasing celebrities? Look, Magnus is kind of a celebrity, so I understand that. But he's also a photogenic and interesting character in the car world who's got a good story. But wouldn't it be very easy to fall into that trap?
Yes. I find that most celebrities or most people that just have a lot of money to buy cars really don't have a true passion behind it. I mean, I have seen this in spades where you go to, and I've been lucky enough to go to like Villa d'Este and go to Concours and things like that, and you see some very significant cars in there. But I don't know. A lot of the time, what I love are all, like I was just in Hilton Head. They have a small little concourse.
I like that at Concord.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good one.
The club days are incredible. When you have all those guys with just like their Sunbeam Alpines and their like one-off crazy little weird bug-eye sprites and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those guys, for me, are the real passionate storytellers, right? So I think there are you have to nod to certain people and collectors that I think are coming from a very true place. Like you could easily fill a man in his car with $25 million Concours hedge fund owned Ferraris.
Yeah.
Beautiful cars. It's never really been about that. Like those books are already out there. They're a bit pornographic to me. They're like slick.
The
and
Mark Furman books. You know Mark
Oh,
Furman?
yeah.
I know. It's very well studio lit. He's got like a 48-foot softbox.
Sure.
It's the craziest thing.
But see, I can't, my hat's off to Mark. Like I can't do that. I'm not that guy. Like I don't know how to do that. I mean, this stuff to
Look
me
at this. This is the fucking dope. I mean, I have to give
beautiful.
a shout out to this guy because look at this fool's. This
No.
dude's softbox is so baller, and this looks like a Bugatti 57 Adelante, I believe. But like this softbox is literally a 45 foot.
No, that is
softbox.
so spectacular.
Yeah.
And by the way,
He's a
I
heavy
couldn't.
hitter.
I don't know if First of all, I don't think I have the reputation of Mark to get those cars to show up to me.
I bet you probably could.
But a lot of this was about making myself available to where these cars were. And I thought about car design. My brother's in the car design world, and we talked about this. And I've talked to car collectors about it. And is this a Peter Mullen car?
Probably.
Could have been.
I mean, probably. Have you met Peter? He's great.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Are you doing anything with him?
I did. He had in Hilton Head. He had a Delahaye.
Delahayes are crazy. Anything French from the 30s and 40s is like ridiculous and stupid and awesome.
And he is in love with those things. Like
Well, he's all French.
Beyond.
He's all French all day.
it's amazing.
He's selling a building right now. He's got his big building in Oxnard.
Yep.
And he's got his other little building in LA. Have you seen his little building?
No.
So I only know about it because my real estate agent is selling it for him. And he's got this building in LA that's like 10,000 square feet. And he has decorated the building to look like the inside of a French train station from the 1920s. It is so crazy. And he's selling it, and it's so expensive. But you can't do anything with it because it's like not zoned properly for the parking and everything.
Yeah.
So you pretty much just have to buy it as like a toy box.
Well, I like guys that are committed to the 100% of the idea of the thing. And I think that when you have that sense of commitment, you can't neglect the authenticity of the intent. And I think Bruce Meyer is another one of those guys that I really loved talking to, who has such amazing cars and comes from such an honest, authentic place. And then, so like those maybe are a little bit like the Immortals, right? And then you have other people that, I don't know, there's this guy in upstate New York named Mikey, who everybody calls the starving artist, right? Like no one really knows what this guy does. But I have seen him driving in upstate New York where my farm is, only British cars, like old XJ6s and MGB midgets. There was a lot of midgets in upstate New York growing up, right?
Why do you think that is?
They imported a lot of those fucking cars. But he paints these murals of his life in house paint on these British cars.
What?
They are just spectacular. Have you ever seen the Janis Joplin Porsche, that kind of mad, surreal mural?
Yeah.
Like imagine that on...
I'm trying to Google.
I doubt. No, this is how obscure that you're never going to find this guy.
I'm looking for murals on MG midgets while you're talking. I'm trying to find one. If I can find a picture of one, it's not getting me anywhere right now.
So I stopped him one day and I was like, "What's the story about? Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Well, I'm an artist first of all, and I, love British cars. And when I was young, my mom always told me like I would never really amount to anything, and I would never." She was like, "You'll never own a British sports car. What are all these like dreams of you owning a British sports car?" So now he
has like 50 of them.
Now he buys them and then he paints the mural of his life. This kind of like,
fuck you, mom.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate, right? And I just think like that story just made a big impression on me. And these cars are great looking. And what he does, so like then you have like these kind of nutty,
I'm picturing
crazy,
like the Janis Joplin Porsche.
Well,
like,
exactly.
Is that
right?
kind of where we're looking aesthetically?
Like there'll be like a big rolling wave, and then all this kind of abstract tableau storytelling. Not so different than like what kind of lowrider culture does in a more refined way.
Yeah.
So but I just think it's interesting that he only does it on these like old beater British cars. So like you have like nutty art cars like that, and then you have these, I think, highly collectible and rare and sought after things. But again, regardless, I think it's about the passion of the storytelling. Why do you own this thing? Like why is this in your life? What is the love affair? Why do people spend more time with cars than their family sometimes?
Yeah.
Like that to me is this kind of interesting perspective on the car book story. It
makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of a car, even a watch can tell a story, but a car actually gives you feedback, sound, everything except taste, really. Sound, sight, visual, a smell, a G-force, the way the leather feels, the wood of the steering wheel, all that kind of stuff.
When I was interviewing people for the watch book, I think there was a lot of guys who maybe didn't really know how to articulate the story. Like they didn't talk about it very much. And I remember most of the interviews lasted 15 to 20 minutes, unless it was James Lambden from Analog Shift. And I think his interview was like 45, 50 minutes. My wife's favorite story, James. And because I think a lot of these guys really hadn't told their story before of why they fell in love with this thing. Car guys, they've been thinking about this a long time. Those interviews are like straight to the point. 6-8 minutes, you're into the meat and heart of it, because they really not only probably been talking about it amongst themselves, they have been thinking about it a long time. And that was very interesting to me.
Well, I think, and it's also with a watch, I don't know, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I think it's a lot of time, it's hard, you can't really just be like, well, I liked how it looked. If you're looking to interview someone because of their watch, like there kind of has to be more to it than that. So people kind of like rattle around their head a little bit to find.
But I also kind of pre-interviewed. Like I knew already who kind of already had a pretty good story that I was able to like milk out. But
Just finding
There were
fun pictures.
so this was the car show out in East Hampton.
No, this
no,
is
sorry,
Hilton
this
Head.
is Hilton Head. Sorry,
Hilton Head.
sorry, yeah. This was on the club day, and this was the Porsche field. It was so great. There,
Ooh,
that's one
a
of Peter's
Delahaye.
car.
Wow, man, the French are fucking nuts, dude. You
Yeah.
couldn't build anything like that today. That you couldn't. I mean, even a SEMA custom wouldn't be that cool today.
Look at that.
Yeah,
I mean,
French are nuts.
okay, this Shelby is so awesome. So this is one of the Hertz
It's an old
Shelbys.
rental car, Shelby. Yeah.
And what I loved about this car is this guy just did this Mexico rally and then brought the car directly to Concours and didn't wash it.
Yeah,
didn't touch it.
the no washing thing is good.
I like it.
Yeah, it's good. There was a very, very expensive Dakar 911 that just sold recently for like $4 million with a sign on the windshield that says, original dirt from 1985, do not wash.
I think Bradley Price did something really funny for, from Autodromo.
Mm-hmm.
He did a really funny April Fool's where he sold tins of barn find dust. It's like how to instantly barn find your car.
That's very funny. I like that. That's like one of those Cards Against Humanity goofs.
Yeah.
So who are some of the folks you've got going in the car book?
So in terms of Immortals,
This guy, I hope. Is this your Italian
yeah,
man?
that's Gerardo. That's
Yeah.
behind the scenes. There's a lot of Negroni drinking up there.
I would definitely get Gerardo in the book.
Gerardo, Serie 3, yeah. I think in terms of brand story, I think Ford was really important to me. Fiat was really important in terms of how it changed the worldview of cars. Individuals like, at the immortal levels, Ralph Lauren, the first prototype Tesla, which I thought was interesting.
Who's
because-
got that?
So Franz, who's the key designer at Tesla, they have
yeah.
that there. And and my brother works for Tesla, and we were talking about photographing this car, and he's like, I don't know, Matt, there's a guy who works in our machine shop who's this lowrider, and you got to see this car. I mean, this is the car. So I went there yesterday to Tesla, and this guy had his car there. It was a 61 Impala convertible, and he has had most of the selective chrome work, all hand tooled like a Western belt buckle.
Jesus.
From underneath the tailpipes to, it is one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen.
And he drives it?
And he drives it.
That's cool.
And it's all hydraulicked out, beautiful sound system in the back. And he is the most, soft-spoken, passionate car guy I've ever met in my life. And this is the tableau of his life, this thing. And that to me is such a huge story, one of equal value to any of the rare cars, the expensive cars, or celebrity.
Yeah.
So it has to have that balance,
Yeah.
And I love lowrider culture, and it's not, but I'm in my heart, I'm a Porsche guy, So but I love and appreciate all that craziness. And someone like Rod Emery, who's basically bastardizing every Porsche purist would consider, and then you have these spectacular interpretations.
What used to be considered bastardizing is now costs $500,000.
Yeah, look at
Rod
that.
shit
though.
is dope.
It's amazing.
Yeah, his stuff is.
If I had,
I
look at
love
that.
this one he just
Look
did.
at
He
that.
did. It was just it's almost like a Safari build, but for a 356. It's got a little lift on it. It's got the fog lights, the roof rack.
And to me, it feels so Californian these cars. And I think Rod is just a talent, super generous guy. Been at this since he was 16 years old. It's just amazing. I would pretty much do anything to have one of those.
Yeah, Rod rules. He's a good one to have. Have you talked to John Ward? You must have talked to John Ward.
No, I haven't.
Icon?
I've met John,
Yeah.
but we haven't really talked about what his personal car story is. you
Yeah.
know?
He's got some good ones.
Yeah.
He's got this 90s Bentley that he loves, that he drives
Oh, really?
around.
I
Yeah,
love
that he
that.
bought for pennies when nobody, and it's going up now, but I can't remember if it's an Azure or it's a Bentley Continental, I think, a two-door, not like a modern, like
Right.
the boxy Continental one, but he loves that thing. That'd be a fun one.
What I'm finding is, I have a certain amount of access to subjects and things in personal cars that I like, and I selfishly drive it that way. But this is an onion peeling process, right? You start getting more and more layers of better and better stories. I like them when they're all centered around Los Angeles, New York, and but I schlepped this system all around. I was in London, from all over England down to Nice a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And that was incredible, but it was a real pain in the ass. But I got access to such great stuff.
Have you gone to New Zealand?
That ain't happening.
I recommend everyone goes to New Zealand. If you want car shit, man, New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah, New Zealand's where it's at.
There's very good trout fishing there too.
They were so isolated. I mean, they're still isolated, but before Amazon and global shipping really became a thing, they had to make all their own shit.
So what's down there that's interesting?
Well, everything
in
is
terms
home.
of period.
Everything is homemade. So first off, New Zealand is like a dumping ground for used Japanese cars, and all engine swaps are legal in Japan. So there's crazy in New Zealand. So there's crazy engine swaps, but also what you'll have is these little car clubs where it's like 5 friends. And like they each bring something to the table. So like how to tune ECUs, and how to cast aluminum, and how to mold carbon fiber, and how to do shock tuning, and how to do this other thing. And they pass their cars around and work on each other's cars. And so everyone's got a car that was like completely built within this club. And like people do shit in their sheds that like it's unfair, like casting aluminum. Like who the fuck just does that in their shed? But like these guys do that stuff.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
But on mostly Japanese formats.
I mean, there's it's right-hand drive mostly, so it's typically English, Australian, and Japanese cars mostly. But you see people doing really interesting custom type of things down there.
Well, I know Cameron's a Land Rover fan. I'm a huge Land Rover fan, and I have a old school buddy of mine who named Joe Harth, who's down in San Salvador, and he's originally from San Salvador, but he was living in Caracas for many years, and Caracas has turned into a shit show. But he was a very big car collector, 60s, 70s, and he amassed this incredible collection that has slowly been like being DHL'd out of Caracas to Miami, But he's in San Salvador now, but he can't stop himself. Like this is a guy collecting like 50s Gullwings and really rare BMW Roadsters and stuff like this. But now, because there were so many Land Rovers and Land Cruisers imported in the 50s, 60s, and 70s for the coffee industry of Central America, that there's piles of these Land Rovers around. And he called me one day. He's like, Jamo, get your ass down here. I know how much you love Land Rovers. You asshole. Come on. What are you doing? That was the message. And then he sent me a couple pictures, and I went down there. And it's just insane, the amount of vehicles. And it's sort of like the New Zealand thing, right?
Yeah. They just get dumped down there. And
everyone had to fix them.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford not to fix them. So you have all these incredible vehicles down there that didn't rust, that were well maintained. And actually, a lot of the guys that still do the engine work were trained by Land Rover in the 60s. And there are these old timers down there. It's incredible. It's just getting them out.
Yeah. Are they old enough you can ship them back yet?
New York State is not an issue for most of that stuff because we have more lax emissions than you guys have in California.
Yeah. And California's a pain in the dick to import stuff, too.
And my mom knows lots of people in the DMV, which is helpful.
But we're just talking about that. At the end of the day, it's all about that one person behind the desk.
That's right.
The state can say whatever the fuck they want. Any rule on the books doesn't matter if you got one person behind the desk
who actually legally knows how to finesse paperwork.
Yeah,
because you can't get around the legality. You just have to get around the finagling of it.
You just got to catch the right person on the right day.
Yeah,
that's really it.
Did you see that crazy little Fiat X19 on the? Yeah. So that actually got best of class in Hilton Head. It's a total 100% original Fiat X19, and I drove that car, and that was one of the most fun things I've ever driven.
It's a good-looking little car.
All original paint. It just was phenomenal.
There's a guy I know in Atlanta who's putting Honda K20 swaps in these things, so they actually work properly. Which is like a 2-liter Honda engine, like 200 horsepower. Yeah,
mid-engine mounted.
Yeah, in the back.
Huh.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it fits.
Yeah. And use a Honda gearbox, too. You just basically take the complete Honda drivetrain, from the front and put it
Right.
back there.
You couldn't fit in that car. But
No, I couldn't.
I
It's
got.
tough.
I was pretty comfortable in that car.
I maybe could if I mean, I could for like 10 minutes if I took my shoes off or whatever. I have to take my shoes off to drive my Lamborghini.
and the Targa.
yeah, and the roof off too. I forgot the roof comes off in these.
It's a fun little. I mean, when I was growing up, like I always kind of, I wasn't so in it. But as this thing, I think is really coming to its own.
If you took these ugly US bumpers off it, that would be something.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's a pretty rad looking little car. Bertone design.
Yep.
Beautiful. Very, very period color for 74.
That's right. Putty.
So when does A Man in His Car come out, you think?
So
Next
that'll
year
be
sometime?
out next year.
Can I be in it? Maybe.
Yeah. Yes, you can be.
Maybe
in it.
I could be in
Yes.
it. Yeah, I could be in it.
We need it.
That's awesome.
We need a sexy original Lambo for that.
We could do that. We can do that, or we can do
And the
Safari
Safari's
911.
pretty
We could do
magic,
whatever.
I'd say.
Yeah, whatever you want, man. I got you covered.
And Cameron, what are you driving now?
Right now, I came in a Sprinter van.
Yeah, Sprinter van.
The
Cameron's
camper,
got the-
camper Sprinter.
Cameron's
So
got
what
the
year?
Land
That's a
Rover.
Series 2, right? Series
2A.
2A
Yeah.
flatbed.
I was gonna drive it today, but I went out and it was full of water because it's been raining.
shit. You know,
The actual follow-up question is, which part was full of water?
Oh, the
Like,
inside, the inside of the cab, full
interior
of water.
was full of water.
and it had the roof on.
Yeah, we're all sealed up and everything, but it's still, water's leaking in everywhere.
Jesus. Does your new house have a garage?
So, no, I don't have a garage.
Do you have a driveway?
I have a huge driveway and a huge backyard with multiple sheds, but no garage.
Wait, you actually have a huge driveway and a huge backyard
Yeah.
in your new house?
Yeah.
Oh, so can you build a shed for this thing?
Hopefully.
Or just put a
Hopefully.
tarp over it.
I was actually thinking maybe I'll get some containers or something and
Yeah.
just some temporary things to put there to park cars in.
We'll get you some bubbles.
Yeah.
Cameron keeps it old school though.
Yep.
When he's not driving his Sprinter van. Although his Sprinter van's pretty camped out.
I
right now.
love a Sprinter van, particularly when it is decked out for camping and stuff. I
Yeah.
think those are awesome.
Yeah, his is fully done up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The homebrew Airstream kind of thing.
Yeah. I built the whole thing.
It's badass. Is there a picture of it here? No, I don't think so. Right?
There might be one in the
Maybe.
snow,
Yeah, I did.
right?
I don't know.
There was
Yeah,
one in the
probably.
snow posted
It was
recently.
a while back. I don't know, man. Go dig through Cameron's Instagram. When
Yeah.
you have time.
See the Sprinter.
So A Man and His Watch is out now.
Man,
Buy it
it's
on.
It's been 1 year November out. It resonated. You could find it your local. Hopefully your local has it, but Amazon and Barnes and Noble has it as well.
And the WilliamBrownProject.com.
That is, that's a kind of, I don't know how many people actually log in to www. anymore, but you could follow most of my antics at WM Brown Project on Instagram.
And there's a link there as well.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming in, Matt.
Oh,
good,
come on,
Good
this is a
times, man.
pleasure.
Great to have you.
Can we do
Finally.
another hour? Or?
We can. Another time. We
Another
need more.
time.
When your next book comes out, we'll definitely do another hour.
All right, so we'll see
sure.
you out there.
And shout out to Haviston Straps.
Haviston Corp Canvas Series straps.
Dude, these guys sent us some really nice NATO straps to check out, and I happen to really like their packaging, which looks remarkably like an Altoids tin. And it comes. Did you open this one? It comes like in this beautiful like paper packaging, like you bought a rib roast from your butcher, almost. I'll open this.
Great reference, dude.
They got some. They got NATOs, and then they got canvas. Oh, this is my. They sent me a 22 millimeter for my canvas. Oh, let me zoom out there, buddy. Some nice looking stuff. And
Yeah, it's
NATO's
great looking.
Haviston straps. What's their website? Is it www.haviston.com? These are really nice, and they're NATOs, but they're, what do we call those?
I just call them single pass, so they don't have that extra material that then has to go under the back of the watch.
Yeah,
So it's not so thick, doesn't make the watch stand up so high.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that they were called American NATOs, but I could be wrong. But that's the single weave,
Yeah, right? Just one pass.
one pass through.
Whatever
Yeah.
it is, it's better, and it's made of canvas. This is a really high quality material. I'm stoked on this. This is gonna be my summer strap for my Weiss watch.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That's right. Good grade, too.
I got the winter strap on for it now.
See, quarterly, man.
Quarterly, I like it. And
Quarterly and seasonally.
And where are people gonna be able to get the magazine? By the
So
way,
I'm gonna put it out on the Instagram where you could find it, and that'll be out mid-December William Brown first issue fall.
Rad. I can't wait.
Little late for fall, but
If you're back in LA when we're shooting cars, we'll come back on. You can plug the magazine.
I would love that.
That'd be cool. All right. Thank you, guys. That's Watch and Listen for you. We will see you next week. Matt Hranek, thank you for coming in, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Goodbye. Bye.